What's going on, guys? Kyle here, and I am excited to share with you guys something that has probably been one of the biggest questions that I've received over the last, I don't know, 3 to 4 months since I've tried to really step my game up with live streaming both on Facebook and on YouTube. And that's basically, Kyle, how do you stream to both of these services at the same time? I can't tell you how many times I've gotten that question, and it's actually a lot simpler than you might expect, and it doesn't cost a whole bunch. So give me about 20 to 25 minutes today. I'm going to walk you through kind of all of the ins and outs about how to actually do this and show you kind of a quick walkthrough, share my screen, and go through the settings that I've got on my system here. So that being said, if you're not familiar with the channel, my name is Kyle Handy. I'm a real estate agent. I've been in the business for about 11 years, based out of San Antonio, Texas. Today, I have a network of agents all over the country that I train and support and do videos for and do all sorts of things like that. And if you're a real estate agent, definitely consider subscribing as I put up a new video each and every Monday, and also randomly throughout the week in addition to that, most of them being live streams like what you're watching right now. So anyways, with that being said, I'm going to just jump right into the content today. And again, the title of today is How to Live Stream on YouTube and Facebook Simultaneously. So here we go, and grow your audience fast. So really, I'll give you a quick little story about why I got started in this. Was, I did a lot of research and watched Gary Vee and all sorts of other, kind of influencers online. And a lot of them, as of maybe a year to 2 years ago, began saying, hey, live video is where it's at. And so, I started doing live videos, probably like most of you guys, where, you just take your phone out and you're in an environment where you want to just take a quick live video. But what I realized was that, I didn't get a whole lot of traction from it. I wasn't really seeing the results that, some of these bigger influencers were talking about. And it wasn't until I started thinking, well, hey, I'm already doing some types of training videos. Why not make those training videos go live? And so that's kind of what started me down this path. I just started it out with using my laptop and, basically the webcam and the microphone on my laptop. I've since upgraded. I had, a webcam after that, and I got a microphone. And then now I'm streaming live from my DSLR setup. It's a Sony A7 III, and I use a tool called the Cam Link, made by Elgato. And so that's how the video is able to be so crisp and clear. But I'm going to get into all of that, kind of tell you the equipment that I use, the software that I use, and kind of just some of the ins and outs about how live streaming works, and then how to actually stream it to these different platforms. So that all being said, let's go ahead and talk about first what you're going to need. So you're going to first need a webcam, a microphone, and a computer. I don't know of any ways that you can stream to multiple platforms on just like a mobile device, like an iPhone or an iPad or an Android device. I don't know of any myself personally. To be able to stream to multiple at once, I have to use my laptop. Of course, you can stream to Facebook using just a device, or even YouTube, I think, has started allowing some creators to start streaming live with their phone or whatever. But to be able to do both, I believe that you're going to need to have a laptop or a computer. It doesn't matter if it's a PC or a Mac, but you do need some kind of a computer. And then you're going to need the software. And I'll give you the ones that I recommend, but I'll also tell you the names of a couple others if you want to do your own research. But these are just the ones that I found for my budget and kind of the systems and the hardware that I have set up. That's what I use. And so my budget, just so you guys know, is not very expensive. I'm trying to, I don't want to spend tons and tons of money. I think that for Restream, I spend about $19 per month, plus a little bit extra to have what's called transcoding. And I'll show you what that is here in a little bit. And then OBS Studio is absolutely no cost. It's a free open source software, and it's a little tricky at first to get it, but then once you've used it a couple times, it's actually pretty simple to use. So, and then last but not least, of course, you're gonna need a fast internet upload speed. So a lot of times people will, look at just what their download speed is, but when we're talking about live streaming, it is all about the upload speed. So it's going to be completely something different than like what you are normally used to watching, Netflix or whatever. That's all download speed. But usually when you're looking at internet service providers, they'll tell you, you're on a 100 download and 20 upload speed or something equivalent to that. I use a 1 gigabit per second download speed, which is extremely quick, and it's a 200 megabyte per second upload speed, way more than what would be needed for the average streaming. And I'll kind of talk to you about what is required. Mine is far overkill for that, but I like to be on the safe side. Plus, the other thing that I'll talk about is, using a wired connection versus a wireless connection. That can also make a bit of a difference. So there you go. So that's what you're going to need. We'll get more into the specifics here shortly. So as far as the webcam, there's a couple different ones that you can use. Well, there's many different ones that you can use, but I'm giving you a few different choices, a good, better, and best choice. So of course, your good choice is whatever you've got on your laptop that's already sitting there. If you've got some kind of 720p or above webcam on your laptop, you can get started right there. So I know my MacBook always came, standard with a 720p camera for probably the last 5 years or so that I can remember. So at least you could start there if you didn't want to go out and get a webcam. But webcams are so inexpensive these days. I think you can go and get the next choice up, which is the Logitech C920S for like $60 on Amazon. And I've got links below for these different things if you want to get them. So if you want to step up your quality a little bit, I think that'll get you to at least a 1080p resolution, which is a little bit higher than 720p. 1080p is basically what I stream in. So right now you're watching this on 1080p. You can go to 4K, but that is a complete different ball game. I don't even stream in 4K. It requires a lot more hardware processing power. Your computer has to be really good. Your internet connection has to be solid. So I don't even go that far. I think that's a bit overkill. Most people are watching these videos on their mobile devices. And so, 1080p looks perfect on that. If somebody's watching this on their 60-inch TV, well, then maybe there could be some pixel peeping that, it doesn't look as good as 4K, but it's okay. As far as, what's required, I would say a solid 1080p video feed is going to give you great quality. You're not going to hear any negatives about that. And then for me, what you'll notice, the thing that I get most people will say is they'll say, well, Kyle, how do you blur the background? What webcam are you using to do that? And it's kind of funny. The only way that I'm able to get this blurred background is because I use a DSLR camera. And so it's probably like what you see, photographers using out there taking pictures. I actually use that as my webcam. I've got a tripod set up behind me with the, or in front of me, I guess you should say, with the camera mounted on the tripod there. There is another piece of hardware that you have to use when you have a DSLR like this, and it's called the Elgato Cam Link. And there is a link in the description for that as well. And if you go over to Elgato's website, they actually have a list of compatible cameras that you can check to make sure if you've already owned a DSLR camera, you can see if their hardware is compatible with your camera. Otherwise, if you're going to go out and buy a DSLR camera to be able to stream live video, and have that blurred background, have that really nice image quality, you can go on Elgato's website first and just, make sure that whatever camera you're going to pick up, it does work with that hardware, because you are going to need that to be able to import your camera feed into the computer, like what I'm doing right here. So as far as a microphone, the next thing that you want to look at is, I would honestly say that audio is almost more important even than the video quality. If people can't, hear you solidly, if it doesn't sound good, if there's, other stuff going on in the background, it really turns people off. I've noticed that as my audio quality is improved and I've upgraded my microphone, I tend to get more and more compliments on the video. But that being said, you can start with just your laptop microphone. Again, like most laptops, especially I know MacBooks are kind of set up that way where you can do FaceTime on them. So they've got a webcam, they've got a microphone built into it. May not be the best, might be picking up a lot of other audio going on in the room, but you can start there. The better option, and I'm going to give you another better option too before I jump into the one that I have written down, is even if you have like some kind of Apple AirPods, those can actually work really well. I know that I can I can tie my AirPods into my MacBook as a Bluetooth device, and then be able to, not only hear audio but also speak and have that be my microphone. And that honestly is better than the audio that comes straight from the MacBook or whatever laptop you might be using. But let's just go ahead and say that you want to actually pick up a USB mic to help improve your audio. The lesser expensive of the two options that I've got down here is a Neewer, I think is how you pronounce it, USB microphone, and it includes the swivel arm. It's like $35 on Amazon, so very affordable. It gets great reviews. I've not personally used it, but I did a lot of, kind of reading through the reviews and, compatibility. It works with Mac and PC. So this seems to be the best option in that, lesser expensive price range. The actual microphone that I'm using is the Shure MV51. It's a condenser microphone. It sounds amazing. And I have to hook it up with a Rode PSA-1 swivel arm, which is basically, you'll see here in a second, I'm going to kind of turn my camera around and kind of show you the whole setup here shortly. And you'll see how it hooks up. But basically that swivel arm allows me to do a video like this. The mic is positioned perfectly. And then when I'm done, I can just swing it around, put it somewhere else, and kind of do that. So anyways, that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the next hardware requirements, which is the computer. And I'll tell you, you can use all sorts of different computers. You can, of course, use PC or Mac, but really, what I've noticed is that when you're live streaming, especially if you're going to have a lot of different things going on, like if you've got a lot of, we call them scenes, which is like, for instance, when you saw the very beginning of this video, there was a countdown timer. That was a scene. And then within the software, I can change it to a talking head scene, which is just my picture, no slides or anything. I can change it to the slide scene. I can change it to screen share. I can change it to iPhone. I can change it over to my webcam, as you can see there. Like, these are all different scenes, and I'm going to talk about them here shortly. But the more scenes that you have set up, and the more things you're trying to do with your live stream, the more hardware power you're going to need. And so the minimum, from what I've found, and you might be able to go a little bit less, but if you're going to be going out and buying a computer, this is kind of some of the stuff I would look for, is that you get something with a quad core Intel i5 or higher processor. That's probably the most important piece of the entire computer that you're going to want to look at. Most new computers, especially new MacBooks, they're all going to have that for the most part. I'm on a MacBook Pro. It's a 2019 model, the 16-inch version, and it's got a 8-core Intel, I think i7 or i9 processor on it. So it is more than capable. The one that I came from was a quad-core i5 processor, so I know that it can work with that, but it was a bit slow. Sometimes there would be frames that would get missed. It'd be called kind of what you would hear as lag, where essentially, it'd be recording, something would drop, and there's actually there's a kind of a thing inside of the OBS Studio software that I use that shows you if you're dropping frames. And I know that whenever I had the other laptop, that I would drop more frames than I do on this new laptop. So it does make a difference. You're probably not going to notice a whole lot if you are on an i5 versus, or in a quad core i5 versus a 8-core or 6-core or something like that. But that would be something that if you get this all up and running on your laptop or your desktop that you're working on right now, and there's just, choppiness or something, that's probably the first thing that I would check on, is what kind of computer do you have? Do you need to upgrade? But then the next thing, of course, 8 gigabytes of memory or better seems to be the optimal amount there. For recording, especially like, recording to your hard drive, I recommend a solid state drive over a hard disk drive. The recording speeds are a lot quicker, and so you'll make sure that that's obviously not going to be a bottleneck in your process. And then, of course, a dedicated graphics card is preferred as well. So versus a lot of times if you buy like out of the box kind of computer where it's, just something you'd get at a regular store, Walmart or something like that, it may have where the graphics card and the processor are integrated, in one, and there's really not a separate dedicated graphics processor. If it's a gaming computer or anything like that, video editing computer, it's most likely already going to have a separate graphics card, but that could also be the bottleneck if you don't have that. So just make sure that if you're shopping around for different computers or things like that, that those would be the things that you want to look for. All right, and then next what we're going to talk about is choosing the right software. So there's two different pieces of software that you need. You're going to need an encoder, which is like the OBS Studio that I had mentioned earlier. It works on PC and Mac. The other one is called Wirecast. I don't use that one, but if you're like researching it, a lot of people when they're searching for like, OBS Studio, they're usually comparing it to Wirecast. So those would be the ones you might want to look for. OBS Studio, though, in my opinion, does everything I need. It's completely free. I don't have to pay anything for it. Whereas I think Wirecast does have a nominal fee to it, a monthly fee that you can pay for. So for my purposes, OBS Studio works just fine. vMix is PC only, and I know a lot of people have rave reviews of vMix, but vMix, again, it's one of those ones where it's got so many features and functions that you can do for your live streaming setup that I'm sure there might be reasons why you might want to use it. But for me, again, I haven't found any of the limitations yet of OBS Studio, and everything that I've been doing for live streaming works just fine on OBS Studio. So I continue to use that. Maybe if you're doing something where you're like bringing on other guests into the live feeds, you may want to start looking into vMix. I also know that vMix has some cool stuff where, like, for instance, I do all of the work when it comes to live streaming. I'm the one changing the different scenes and kind of, editing things on the fly. But there's a lot of times where, like, if you have somebody else to help, they can actually remotely control your live stream and make sure that it's up and functioning, and all you got to do is do your thing on the video, and that's it. And they can change through the scenes, they can make sure everything is going the way it needs. And I believe that vMix does that, but I don't believe that OBS Studio has an option for that. But again, for me, it's not really necessary. I can kind of handle what I'm doing here with no problems, no issues. And I'll give you a quick run through of OBS Studio here shortly. The next one is the streaming service. And so this is where OBS, you got to look at that, like the encoder, what that's doing is it's taking all of these different feeds, like I just showed you, have all those different scenes, and it's allowing you to kind of manipulate what you want to be shown at any given time. And then it's taking that and then it's sending it somewhere. If you wanted to, you could send it directly to Facebook. You wouldn't need like a streaming service per se. If you were just streaming to one platform like Facebook or YouTube or Twitch or even LinkedIn. But if you're trying to go to multiple platforms at the same time, more than likely you're going to want one of these streaming services, because what ends up happening if you're just using the encoder to stream to multiple platforms is you're going to need an even faster internet speed, because you're basically going to be uploading to both of them simultaneously, versus if you use a streaming service like Restream.io, which is what I use, you upload one time to Restream.io, and then Restream.io sends it out to YouTube and Facebook at the exact same time. The other benefit of Restream.io is that, for instance, like Facebook has requirements as to what the maximum, they call it bitrate, is that can be uploaded to Facebook. It can only be uploaded at 720p. You can't do 1080p. Whereas on YouTube, you can go all the way up to 4K if you want, and I actually go to 1080p. And so basically what I do is on OBS Studios, I record it in 1080p, and I upload it, I send it to Restream.io, and then Restream.io sends it directly out to YouTube as is. They don't transcode anything, but at the same time, they're transcoding it, which means that they're kind of modifying the video file so that way it fits into what Facebook requires, and it's doing it all on the fly. So it's taking my 1080p video that I'm sending to it, and then it's converting it into a 720p video and sending it to Facebook, and it's doing it all in real time at the same time simultaneously. So that way I can give the very best quality on YouTube, and then give the very best quality that I can on Facebook. If I tried taking that one feed, that 1080p feed, and sending it to Facebook and YouTube at the same time, it would play on YouTube, but it'd be too much bitrate for Facebook and it would not play. It would either be super choppy or they would just disable the feed. You wouldn't be able to see it. So you got to comply with what Facebook requires. The other one that people compare Restream.io to is Caster, C-A-S-T-R. You go to caster.com, you can kind of compare the two. I used Caster for a little while. I prefer Restream.io. It just seems to have more features. Plus, it has a really nifty recording and scheduling feature that I'll show you here in a little bit, where literally, and it's what I'm actually doing here today, I can record a video early, right? Like a day before, a week before, whatever, and I can schedule it that it goes live at whatever time that I want it to. So it actually appears to be a live video, when in actuality, it was a video that I had recorded, hours earlier or days earlier even. So that's one big feature that I like from Restream.io. There is an additional cost for that, and you can kind of look up all the costs. I'll share with you what I spend when I'm into that platform. I'll show you what it looks like, but just know those are the two kind of streaming services. And then as far as internet speed goes, I kind of talked a little bit about it earlier. So Facebook, it limits your feed to 720p, 30 frames per second, which all that means is just, basically it's going to be, not like slow motion. 30p is kind of 30 frames per second is kind of just the regular video feed. It's what most webcams record in from the get-go. And so that's what I use. I don't use like 60 frames per second or 120 frames per second. A lot of times if like you're playing video games or something with like fast moving action, you're going to want, higher frames per second. But for a tutorial video like this, 30 frames per second is more than fine. But anyways, what we'll do is, I like I say, on Facebook, it limits it to 720p, 30 frames. YouTube, like I told you, I do 1080p 30 frames, but you can go as high as 4K 60 frames. Now, I share this all with you because what you decide to go with, what you decide to upload with, is going to depend how much internet speed, as far as your upload speed, you need to have. So for instance, for me, since all I do is I do one stream to Restream.io, and I do it as a 1080p stream at 30 frames per second, I need about 7 megabits per second of an upload speed. As I shared with you earlier, I'm on a 200 megabits per second upload speed from my provider, so I'm more than enough. And I've got my computer hardwired in as far as, from the modem directly to my computer, so that I'm not dropping any kind of, megabits per second by being wireless. So that's something you definitely are going to want to check out, because a lot of times if you pay for a 10 megabit per second Wi-Fi upload or upload speed, if you're on Wi-Fi, depending on where you're sitting and how close to the modem you are, you may be only getting 1 megabit per second or 5 megabits per second, and that'll really kind of hinder your upload and your live stream. And so it's always best to have a wired connection. That way it's going to be more reliable. You're going to get the maximum speed out of that modem and that internet speed that you're paying for. But again, so 7 megabits per second is what I use for having 1080p 30 frames per second uploaded to Restream.io, which ends up getting fed out to Facebook and to YouTube. If you're just doing like one live stream to Facebook and all you need is 720p with 30 frames, you can get by with about 5 to 6 megabits per second. You don't need quite as much to be able to get by, but just going to 1080p requires more. If you go to like 4K 60 frames per second, you're talking you need about 50 to 60 megabits per second as far as your upload speed goes. So again, I think 1080p is kind of that sweet spot for now. Nobody is having an issue with it as far as my feeds go, my live streams. I think the quality is great. And so we're going to go ahead and now move on to the actual demo walkthrough. So, all right, and give me 1 second here, because I'm going to change scenes and I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully this works, because it's going all live on the fly here. I'm going to share my screen. Yeah, I know it's going to look a little funny. There we go. Because you can see, so this is the screen that I have recording. It looks super funny because I just moved OBS Studio over, which OBS has like a live preview of what's going on as far as your recording is. And so I'm glad this isn't breaking my computer at the time. But what you can see here is this is what OBS Studio looks like. So, minus how all of the windows are kind of, congregating there. But if you notice, you've got your mic, which tells you, how the audio is. I can make sure that, the audio is perfect. It's in the yellow. It's not going into the red too often. But down here, also remember I told you about how you can see how many frames that you've missed due to rendering lag. So that's down there. I'm not missing very many frames, 0.2%, not very high. But again, when I was on a slower computer, I saw that number being much higher. And if you look down here, it tells you a little recording time, live time. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm actually recording this video earlier. I'm not live as of this moment. I'm recording it. But if I wanted to stream, it would just be one button up. I would hit that start streaming button right here. And you can see start streaming, or it usually says start recording, and I just hit the start recording button. I've got my different scenes over here, so you can see here that as soon as I move through the scenes, you're probably going to miss what it's doing, but you basically can sort through here and basically pick what you want it to show. So like my talking head, if I click that, you're just going to see me, right? If I hit slides, you're going to go back and see my slides, and I've kind of positioned my video down in the bottom corner. Screen share, there you go. You can see exactly what my screen is showing. It's really cool too, because depending on what you want your source to be, you'll notice here that you can create as many scenes as you want. Each scene you can put however many sources you want. So for instance, like for me, Sony a7 III, that's the webcam, that's my DSLR that I'm using to capture the video. And then the display capture is actually the screen that I'm choosing to display. And what you can do is you can kind of edit where things are being seen, how you're seeing them. So for instance, if I want my my video to be bigger on the screen, right, I can go over here and click and drag, make that bigger. I've actually got it, if you click Alt on your keyboard, you can kind of crop, so you can see how I can crop the video there, bring it back down to whatever size you want. All right, so I can move it up to this top corner. That way, if I want you to see down in the bottom, because I think I was showing you earlier about the controls, you probably couldn't see those earlier, but here's the start streaming, start recording, which I'm already recording, so it just gives me the option to stop recording right now. Settings, which I'll show you kind of the settings that I have on here. I'll make this bigger, so I guess probably can't make it bigger. There you go. But anyways, I've got it different settings here. I've got it on the dark theme. You can see here, I'm not going to go through each one of these, but if you wanted to copy my settings, I'll at least go through them so you can see what I am using. As far as the streaming service, again, I'm using restream.io. They give you a stream key on there, which I'll show you the restream.io setup here next. But just realize that when you set up restream.io, they're going to give you a stream key. You put it into here, and then you don't have to change it. It's the same stream key every single time, so I don't need to come and change settings inside of OBS Studio each time. All I do is basically come in, start either streaming or recording depending on what I'm going for, and it's going to then put the feed into restream.io. I'll go to the website and I'll show you the settings that I use on restream.io to actually get it to go live on Facebook or YouTube. The output, I do have it on the advanced mode for output recording. I actually got these settings from another YouTube video that I had watched. My bitrate, again, is 6,000 kilobits per second. If you were just going to Facebook, the maximum bitrate you can use is 4,000 kilobits per second. So again, that's where I use Restream, because I'll upload to 6,000, and then on restream.io, it'll automatically convert it to 4,000 kilobits per second for me. This keyframe interval, most of the time you leave it on auto on 0. For some reason though, that needs to be 2 whenever I record a video, and then I use the Restream tool to be able to schedule that video to play back at a different time. For some reason, it needs to be a keyframe interval of 2. And if you do it on 0, it works, but it's kind of a little bit difficult. Like it doesn't work as good. There, you can tell that the quality is not there. It'll actually give you a warning that says, use a keyframe interval of 2. So ever since I changed that, I haven't had an issue. And so if you're wondering where to change that at, it is in here. And so let's see here. I got very fast, none. And then as far as recording, I got pretty much the same things over here. CBR 6,000. 2 as far as my keyframe interval, same thing all over there. Audio, I don't have anything changed there. Replay buffer, I didn't change anything there. Now, as far as audio over here goes, I got 44.1 kilohertz. I think the only difference is 48. I don't honestly know if that makes much of a difference. It's channels, I've got it as stereo. Here's my mic. It's the USB mic, so of course that's plugged in. And you can select it here as far as your mic audio. So that way it's your kind of your default mic when you log in. The video, again, I use 1080p, even though I can go 4K. It's just much more. I drop frames more often. It's way more as far as like uploading, and I just don't think it's very necessary at this point. Hotkeys, I don't have anything set up there. And advanced color format, I do think that I changed this, although it's not letting me change it now. So maybe it's because I'm actually recording, I think is why it won't let me modify these. But my color format is NV12. My color space is 709. And I do use the full color range. I think this comes standard as partial. So I changed that to full. It just makes the image look more natural, I feel, because it gives many more colors versus the other one limits the colors. And, you know, it still looks good, but it's probably not as good as the full color range. Everything else, I think, is kind of the standard. I haven't changed it there. So anyways, those are my OBS Studio settings. When you come over here and you've got your audio mixer, if you noticed, one of the things, like if you're not getting audio, you may need to click on the settings here, go down to the advanced audio properties. Oops, not advanced audio properties. You want to go to the properties. And then just make sure that the device selected is the one that is the mic that you want to use. So of course I'm using the Shure MV51. One other thing that I did here, this was like a recommendation, I think that it actually helped, is if you create a filter, noise suppression, and suppress out -30 decibels or less, it basically cleans your audio, because that microphone is always kind of looking for audio. So sometimes you might hear a hiss or a hum when you're not speaking. Whereas right now, like if I don't say anything, it should be completely quiet. It goes all the way to 0 because that noise suppression filter filters anything out except for when I'm actually speaking, and it picks up my voice. So it just cleans up the audio a little bit. A little extra bonus tip for you there. I think that should kind of do it as far as, you know, it's so easy to add like different scenes. You know, you can just add a new scene, title it whatever you want to title. And then for instance, you know, if I wanted to add another camera source, you know, I can add whatever source I want. So video capture device, that's like a DSLR or a webcam or any kind of thing that's going to be capturing video for you. A window capture is like if you want to capture something from your screen, you know, like a window on your, you know, like a Google Chrome window or something like that, but not the whole actual display. Display capture captures everything. So you'll see my icons at the bottom, the whole thing. That's the difference between display capture and window capture. For the most part, I think that's all that I use. I don't think that I display anything else for the most part. So anyways, you can kind of see that there. All right. So the next thing that I want to show is, let me go back over. I'm going to still keep my screen shared here. I'm going to move my picture back down to the bottom there. Is if I go over to Restream, I want to show you what that looks like. So obviously I'm offline right now because I'm not live streaming this. I'm actually recording it earlier, and then I'm going to do this as a scheduled video, which you can see here in the scheduler tool. But you basically sign up for restream.io. You're going to add the different channels that you want your stream to go live to. So for instance, you know, I live stream to YouTube and to Facebook at the same time. You'll notice that transcoding is disabled for my YouTube channel. It's just going to post whatever I you know, put in there as far as my upload from OBS. But then transcoding is enabled for Facebook. So you'll notice here, if I click on there, it gives me, these are the different options that I can select to make sure that I'm not going over what Facebook requires. I can put a max bitrate of 4000 on there, audio of 96, 720p. So it's basically 1280 wide, 720 tall, 30 frames per second. And that's what I do. I don't do the auto settings on that. I just kind of manually put those in there. So it's going to transcode that to make sure that it goes there in the proper format. You'll see here down for the Restream key, I could click on this to be able to copy that. And that is what you're going to put into the OBS Studio. Once you have that copied, you're going to put that into your stream settings on OBS Studio. And you're going to want to make sure that's set up on RTMP URL and key. Webcam is literally like if you weren't using OBS Studio and like you just were having one scene, it was just going to be your webcam. Then you could do webcam, and that will, here, let me click it here. Yeah, see, it'll access your camera. I could allow it here. And I don't know if it's, yeah, there we go. See, it picks up my webcam right down there. My audio, I can choose that. but there's no scene selection. It's nothing like that that I would be able to do like in OBS Studio. So if you are in a pinch and you don't have OBS and you just want to do it straight from your webcam, you can do it like that. And it would go out basically to both of these at the same time. But for me, like I say, I just, go through OBS, I copy that stream key, put it into there. Once I actually hit the start streaming button, so like if I hit that start streaming button right there, it takes about maybe 5 seconds. And then over here where it says offline, I'll actually start to see the feed that OBS is sending over to restream.io. And then at that point, it's going to automatically, like right now it says offline, it's going to automatically say online, and it's going to have a green, little dot there instead of it being grayed out. And it's going to have those two as being online and streaming to them. So now the thing with Facebook is when it's online, it's going right away, right? Like that's how Facebook is set up. So if it's online, it's going as it is. And so what you're going to want to do on Facebook and before you even start the stream is make sure you come over here to the titles and just put whatever title that you want it to be. Like, I'm going to just put test title, right? I'm going to say update all. It's going to update the title for Facebook and for LinkedIn. For YouTube, it does it a little bit different, and I'll show you how it looks. But so it doesn't actually use the title that you put in there, so that won't matter for YouTube. But for Facebook, it does matter because whatever you put in there, when you go live and you actually hit the start streaming button on OBS Studio, as soon as it's live here, it's going to be live on Facebook. Whereas on YouTube, what you need to do is I'll show you here. You go to YouTube, you have to go in here, you have to say go live. So of course be logged in to your channel, say go live, and give it a sec. There we go. So now you can see here it says you can either create a new stream or copy and create. For me, I always just say new stream. I'll title it whatever I want to title. So I'll just say, how to live stream to Facebook and YouTube, right? You can make sure that it says public, right? If you want the public to be able to see your live stream, you can put whatever description you want. And there's a setting to where, of course, in your YouTube settings, you can have it pre-populate this, right? If you've already got stuff that you always have in your description, and then just add the different part of your description there. Let's see, you can add your thumbnail automatically, so you can actually have it be there before the stream starts. If you don't have it already, you can still do the stream, go back, edit the video, add your thumbnail later. And then now YouTube's got these new things about if it's made for kids or not. I have it no, don't restrict, and no, they're not made for kids. And then I would say create stream. It's still, you're not going to be live yet. So when you hit that, you're not going to be live. Now it's basically got YouTube set up. It's ready and prepared for your stream to get fed into it. And so you're going to want to make sure that in your settings, like if you go to your settings on the Facebook one, you'll notice that there's not very many settings. You can just pick which, you want it to go to your personal profile, your public page, and that's it, right? I always have it go into my public page. On YouTube, you're going to notice here that if you go to the settings, it's going to ask you, your display name, which I just, have it as Kyle Handy, the stream key, which you're going to get from YouTube after you set up that stream. So for instance, here, now that I've got that stream set up, I can come grab this stream key. I just say copy, right? It'll copy it to your clipboard. You can paste it into there. And then your channel URL, you're going to get when you just open up like, YouTube and go to your channel. So for instance, I go there and I say your channel, and then you copy this minus that question mark view as subscriber. You just copy that and go back to Restream, paste it down there, paste your stream key, paste your display name, say save, and that's it. So now, and once these, make sure these blue toggles are on for both of them. So now basically, once that's all set up, and you've got, Facebook ready to go, you got YouTube go, you hit on OBS Studio, you hit that go live or, start streaming, and it's going to pop up, what it looks like here. It's going to automatically start streaming live to Facebook. And then for YouTube, you'll notice that when you go to here where it says connect streaming software to set up the preview, that's going to change into whatever the display is that you're streaming live as well. And then this go live button is going to turn red and you can actually hit go live. Make sure to hit that, because even though the display is going to pull right here and it's going to show you what people would be seeing, if you don't hit go live, it's not going to go live. Nobody will see anything. They're just going to see, that the stream is about to start, right? But if you don't start it, then it'll never start if you don't hit that go live button. I've made that mistake before. I've had people waiting on my YouTube channel and it's streaming to Facebook, but it's not live on YouTube. So don't make that mistake. Make sure you hit that go live button. And then that's pretty much it. And then, you again, just kind of go to your stream, go to OBS Studio, and that point, you're just going to be doing what you're doing, doing your video, giving the value, making whatever it is that you wanted to talk about on OBS. You can see a preview on OBS as far as what it looks like to your audience. And then at that point, make the video. When you're done, I just hit the, here, I'll show you back on OBS. So when you're done, this will turn into, say, stop streaming. I hit stop streaming. I wait for, usually about 30 seconds or so after I hit stop streaming, because then what ends up happening is Facebook will cut off automatically when the feed ends, but YouTube, it will keep going as like a black screen even after you're done. And then you just got to hit end streaming or end live or whatever it says there once you've seen that the video cuts to black on the little preview on YouTube. Just because, again, I guess, they want it to where if you're still chatting with your people watching the videos, you could do that. But for me, most of the time, I'll just end it. And then I just go into the comments and I start responding to comments and doing that type of thing for my live streams. So that's how I do my lives. The nice thing about going live, on both of these platforms is that, it allows me to create one video. I don't have to worry about uploading it. It's basically, once it's out there, it's done, right? Like I don't have to edit anything. It's out there. It's on both YouTube. It's on both Facebook. And because it was a live video, I had a lot of engagement, a lot of interaction with that video when I was live. And so then it shows Facebook and YouTube that, hey, this is a good video. A lot of people watched it already. We're going to serve this up to a wider audience. And that's truly how I was able to start getting some real traction with regards to my channels and my audience and growing my audience. And so you could use this for anything. I mean, you could do it if you're a real estate agent like myself, use this for a buyer seminar or for a listing presentation that you want to give to the whole, to your whole audience on Facebook or on YouTube. If you're already there, you can provide so much value in whatever field or industry that you're in. And it's really simple. I mean, it might be a little complicated the first couple times you do it. It's, again, there's just a lot of little things you do to set it up and to get it started. But then once you've done it, a handful of times, it's pretty much second nature. You just open up OBS, you have your camera set up, ready to go, and then you start going. And so one of the last things that I want to show you is my setup, just so you can kind of see, got this extra webcam here. So I figured I'd put it to use. So you can see, here's me, streaming. I kind of sit at my desk, right? Here's my camera. My desktop setup. I've used two computer screens, which makes it very easy because basically I use one of this as my OBS streamer. So I can always see what I'm seeing at at that point in time. So whatever is being live streamed, I know what's being displayed because I see it on this display monitor. And over on this display monitor is usually like the display that if I'm going to be sharing my display, that I'm using that for. So for instance, like, let me show you here. If I go to, let's go to the slides. So here's my slides, right? And I go to slides here. So you can see that what I'm seeing here, I go back to my webcam. There we go. So the display, that's what is actually being fed out. And then this is what I'm kind of manipulating. So that way, my slides are showing up. Or if I'm just, doing a screen share, it's all on this one. And then OBS is always opened on my right screen over here. And then of course, there's my camera. And you can see there, the Sony a7 III. I actually just switched over to this new lens. It's a Tamron 17-28 f2.8 lens. And it's pretty amazing. I'm actually very impressed with it. It runs about $900 for the lens, which is a lot cheaper than the lens that I was using, which was roughly about $2,000. and it's, in my opinion, even better quality. I've got a light right here to the side of me. You can see there. So here's my desk. There's a light there. And I've got a light back up behind me, which is what they call kind of a hair light. And so that's what, here's my mic arm. It sits right about, maybe about 5 inches, 6 inches from my mouth. And then, the last little piece, you'll notice my phone is plugged into that USB port. Which, my laptop is there. That's kind of an external hard drive there, but it's an external hard drive that has some extra ports for my Mac. And I've got it plugged into my computer. And the reason I have that plugged into my computer, I'll show you here, is if I want to go live on my webcam, you see there how I've got it plugged in. You can do that as a video source inside of OBS Studio. You just select that as one of your different ones. And so I'm going to show you here. If I come back over and I do display, share my screen here, and you'll see here I've got the iPhone one. If I click it now, of course, it's going to change over to iPhone, and you won't be able to see what the settings were. But basically, I just get just like here where you see the sources. If I was to say add a source, and I say video capture device, and let's just go ahead and create a new one. And I want to select my iPhone because it's plugged in. There we go. I can do that, right? I can put that down here. I can crop it so it looks the right dimensions. Just like that, you hit Alt to crop it. I can move it wherever I want to move it. Just like that. And there you go. That's kind of how I do that there. So anyways, I know a lot. It's probably a lot longer video than what than I was planning, but there's a lot that there goes into the live streaming, and there's all sorts of other things that I'm sure that you can do with the live streaming, and it's only going to get more and more widely adopted and widely used, I think, over the coming years. But for right now, I'm telling you, if this is something that you're passionate about, if you want to start doing live streaming, I highly recommend it. I've never seen my videos get so much usage, get so much watch and kind of engagement than, since I started to do live videos. And I just think that this format just kind of, lends itself to, feeling more intimate. Like, since I am live, well, in this case, it's a recording of me being live. Usually I'm live, but when I'm live, it's just like that one-on-one interaction versus just creating a video. So I think it's a pretty cool way to start doing things, but I hope it was helpful. If you aren't already subscribed to my channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you haven't liked this video on YouTube, make sure you hit that thumbs up for the like button. And then if you're on Facebook, make sure you hit the like over there and leave a comment. A lot of times, I'll get hundreds of views, but I don't get very many comments. I'd love to get some more comments. If you're part of that 1% crew, I love my 1% crew. Type it in, 1%. If you got some value out of this, put what you learned that you liked the most, or that you're going to start trying. Let me know if you'd like to pick this up and start doing this yourself. And what you would use it for. So anyways, guys, again, we'll look forward to talking to you soon. I am going to be on a couple trips here coming up in the coming weeks. We'll be in Colorado next week and Puerto Rico the week after. So I'm going to record a few of these videos just so that way I've got these kind of on tap. I don't know what my schedule is going to look like each Monday when I'm there, but I want to make sure that I'm consistent in my posting. So I'm going to have a couple of these things pre-recorded. In the event that I'm not able to stream live, I'll just be able to have something still go on Mondays. So that being said, guys, I hope you have an amazing week, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.